Namaste and welcome to PSM Speak. How can Russia or its supporters justify the war on Ukraine, as Russia launched the war believing any threat from Ukraine or the supporters of Ukraine, particularly from the NATO countries? Is it because of its belief? The Roman adage, si vis pacem para bellum, meaning if you want peace, prepare for war. What kind of threat Russia is expecting from its neighbor Ukraine? Let's examine in this video. Is Russia so powerful economically so that no sanction from the big United States, European countries have no effect on that? Is its military might so great that it is totally invincible? What is Ukraine's state? And why at all Russia started war on it? What are the background reasons for this? What is the effect of this war on world economy, particularly on India? First, the Russian economic strength. No doubt Russia is the world's largest country in size. It is 17.09 million square kilometers. Compare this with India's 3.28 million square kilometers. Okay, this is about size, which doesn't tell much about economic strength. If we measure the gross domestic product of this country, it is $1.47 trillion worth. What is India's gross domestic product? It is 2.6 trillion, which means what? Russian economy is equal to 56% of India's GDP. So prima facie, on the face of it, doesn't look, it is very big country in terms of its economic strength. That is, when compared to India itself, we can come to that conclusion. But when you compare with that of the United States gross domestic product of $21 trillion, that doesn't suggest that this country is an economic might. Maybe that's not a correct indication to judge a country's size by its GDP, because the denominator population is important. When we look at the population of Russia, 14.55 crore, its per head, per capita gross domestic product is $10,115, not much. Anyway, these parameters show on the face of it, it is not a big economic strength. But Russia has some special strengths. We shouldn't forget that. It has the largest gas reserves of the world. That is one thing. And it has the second largest coal reserves. It is second largest oil producer and exporter. And also in agriculture, Russia has its own strengths. It is the world's largest wheat exporter. In effect, it has its own economic strengths, all right. It's not such a strong economy to totally ignore the sanctions on it. Now, is Russia so strong militarily, invincible, that it ignored all the warnings and went ahead with its program? So let us look at its military strength now. One indicator is the amount that it spends on its military. The defense budget. Defense budget of Russia, again 2020 figures, was $61.7 billion. Compare this with United States. US military spending in 2020 was $778 billion. This is so big, 40% of the world's defense spending. World defense spending that year was $1.98 trillion, of which America alone spent 40%. That is $778 billion. Then compare this with the Russian spending of $61.7 billion. That amounts to 7.93%. Russian spending is 7.93% that of United States. So spending is not very big. Then compare with that of the Ukraine, on which Russia has attacked. Ukraine's spending is a paltry compared to these spendings, $5.4 billion. While Russia's spending is 7.93% that of the United States, Ukraine's spending is 8%, 8.75% that of Russia's. So the Russian spending is not comparable, but it is a mighty power when compared to the Ukraine. That is one thing. Then other things, let us not go into very details of Russia's naval fleet strength. It has some 605 or so aircrafts, fighter aircrafts and tanker strength. I am not going into these details, but the personnel, active personnel, about 1 million strong force. In Russia there is a mandate that men in the age group 18-27 be drafted for a year compulsory military service. Okay, all these things show fairly Russia is strong, all right, although it is nowhere near in comparison with the United States. But one thing that we shouldn't forget about is its nuclear weapons. After the dismantling of the USSR, Russia inherited all the nuclear arms. Now it is estimated that Russia has approximately 20,000 nuclear weapons. In nuclear power, it is strongest, next only to the United States. It has this special capacity called MAD. What is MAD? Mutually assured destruction. If any country attacks Russia, it can totally destroy that country. This is its dangerous capability. That's why Putin said, no matter whoever you are, if anyone comes in our way, consequences will be such as you have never seen in your entire history. Add to this, as the war progressing, Putin put the deterrence forces, including the nuclear weapons, on special alert. So these threats are not to be taken easily. That is the special strength which makes others to be very cautious about that. Cautious about any direct military action against Russia. But why Russia is attacking Ukraine? What are the actual reasons? Whatever be its claims, Russia claims that it is not a war, but it wants to help the people of Ukraine, protect them from the genocide, stop militarization and Nazification of Ukraine. But why actually Russia is against the Ukraine? It's a neighbor. Once Ukraine and Russia, as all of us know, part of the USSR. After the collapse of Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, USSR, 15 independent countries emerged. One of them is Ukraine, other is Russia. But Russia doesn't want its neighbor to be controlled by the NATO. It is not willing the NATO to have influence on its neighbor, Ukraine. Gradually it has been attacking, occupying. It was in 2014 that it occupied Crimea, and then when the war is going on, it found it convenient to recognize the independence of Donetsk and Luhansk, or the Donbas region, the southeastern Ukraine. But why the fear of NATO? NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, also called North Atlantic Alliance or the Washington Treaty, that came into being in 1949. We know the world situation that time. To checkmate the USSR's influence in Europe, 12 countries grouped together. Later the number has increased to 30 and it is aspiring to take Ukraine also into its fold. But why the fear? Look at the Article 5 of the NATO. It says any attack against one is treated as attack on all the members of NATO, which means if Russia's neighbor becomes a member of NATO, Russia can't attack it. To that extent, its strength weakens. It doesn't want that to happen. Although it says historical reasons, ethnic realities, like Russian-speaking people in Ukraine and some of the Ukrainians willing to be associating with Russia, these are not the real reasons. It wants to keep NATO at bay. This is the real reason why Russia has attacked Ukraine. So now quickly the impact of this war on economy. In general, the supply chain gets affected to the extent the Russian trade is involved in the world. Then coming to India, oil is really an important commodity that to an extent of 80% India depends on imported crude. Not that India imports from Russia. Indian import of crude oil from Russia is less than 1%, all right. But when supply gets affected, the prices of crude go up. In fact, the international prices of the crude have been on the rise. We have not seen their effect thanks to the elections in some states in this country. Although the government claims that it is the market forces that determine the prices of petroleum products. But we can see during the election times that the government can influence the market forces to see to it that temporarily the prices do not go up during the election season. Of course, they will rebound after the elections. That is another matter. So when the oil prices go up, it will have cascading effect. Price rise will be seen all around. Also the agricultural products. We import from Ukraine sunflower oil. Then the imbalance generated that the import cost of the essential goods increasing. That is disastrous. And similarly the growth will get affected. Now with this, what is imminent is the rise in prices, inflation, slackening growth, unemployment, all the economic consequences. Also, this war put in India in an embarrassing position. China is not condemning the Russian action. By that, India cannot take the enemy's friend, Russia, as its friend. India has been historically on friendly terms with Russia, political and economic compulsions. So also it can't ignore America. Anyway, this war should end. It should end first to stop the destruction in Ukraine, the further loss of lives of Ukrainians, the soldiers who are fighting on both sides, Russian or Ukrainian soldiers. And the damage this war is causing, to the world economy. But then how will it come to an end? Because the real reasons are not the same as apparent. And the aspirations of NATO and Russia's desire and design to stall it its influence on Ukraine. So what I'm trying to tell is the underlying conditions. Unless those conditions change, these aspirations do not undergo any change. True, getting things by coercion, believing in a civilized society as might is right, this should go. People should oppose this, and every democratic government should play its role. See to it that this war comes to an end. Hope that will happen. War cannot go on eternally. Thank you for watching my video. Please subscribe to this channel if you have not done already. Please click on that subscribe button below the video. Also, do not forget to click on the bell icon to get the notifications as and when I upload a fresh video to this channel. Thank you.